Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Toss-Up. I'm Riley Woodall, and we've got some more football for you this week, but the Ted Lasso kind of football. Today, we'll break down everything you need to know about the 2024 version of Indiana women's soccer, and later, Sydney Masur will join the show to talk about her career at Indiana. It's all next on the Toss-Up. From the time I was a freshman in Bloomington to now, Indiana women's soccer has undergone a 3-year transformation akin to AFC Richmond. From a 3-7-7 record on only 11 goals on the season to punching their ticket to the Big Ten and NCAA tournaments a year ago, it's safe to say the Hoosiers decided to be a goldfish. And despite opening Big Ten play with a 3-0 loss to Ohio State, this team is poised with potential and has the chance to be special. And here to talk about the Hoosiers is William Stewart, Ian Plaskoff, and Quinn Richards. Gentlemen, Indiana women's soccer. They are on a roll right now. So, Will, that leads right into my first question. They have 24 goals on the season so far. They only had 11 total in 2022. What have been the keys that have allowed the Hoosiers offense to explode and unlock?
Well, Riley, the most important thing is they're bringing in talent in the attacking third. With forwards last year, it was P-Webb. Paige Weber was really second to none last year. All Big Ten team last year selection, and she had an amazing final season here at IU. Obviously, kind of carried the Hoosiers in the scoring category. This year, Neighbors is coming along. You've got Layla Serta, who's having an amazing freshman year. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff she's doing. And even on the attack and the defensive side, Avery Sneed comes up, and she gets off a shot or two a game. She's had some just amazing goals so far this year. And not to mention there's great midfield play by marvelous Miss Masur. Sydney Masur's had a great season. She leads this team very well. She distributes the ball in the only way really she can do. She just play makes so well, finds open grass for people. And there's also not to mention Hope Paredes. She gets shots off, El Brick gets shots off, and it's kind of the confidence that's come with this team. All the forwards on the team and even the midfield, and like I said, even the back line will come up and get a shot off here and there. Just that confidence in the attacking third has been built so much from this young team that they're actually scoring goals now and having a much better team. And like you said, they've been goldfish to those last couple seasons.
They really haven't. Ian, Will mentioned the player that I want to ask you about, the freshman phenom, Layla Serta. She had 4 goals against Lawrence. Now, granted, it was against Lawrence U. No disrespect to Lawrence U. But 4 goals against Lawrence. What impresses you most about her game?
I think just overall, she does not look like a freshman. She's very patient. She will wait for an opportunity in the box if she has one, and the ball flies off of her foot. Now, if you look at the stats, obviously she's lighting it up. She's third in the Big Ten in points with 200 or 300 fewer minutes than the top 2. But, and this is the big thing, you got to be able to do it against good competition. Now, we talked about Lawrence already. Wright State, a couple of goals and assists there. Evansville, another blowout win. And then Ohio State, it really looked like she struggled. Now, it's all about bringing that play up into the Big Ten play and these big matches here. And so far, I mean, she's getting there. She's a freshman. That's what you expect. But early in the season, she's been lighting up the stat board. I expect that to come for the next 4 years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun to watch her play the next 4 years here. Quinn, we'll switch over to the opposite side of the pitch, the defensive side, which has been borderline elite for the Hoosiers the past 2, 3, 4 years. What has caused that defensive lockdown capability for them on that side of the ball?
Yeah, Riley, I really think it's 2 different things. Number one is the scheme that Coach Benecom has instilled into this program. He's in his 6th year now, and what he kind of preaches is this idea that you're not going to let an offense get comfortable. You're not going to let the opponent ever find comfort just passing that ball around. They're going to pressure almost at every single opportunity. And that's really what they have done. And you see it in games, especially against that Lawrence game. These teams, they never have a moment of fresh air. They're constantly getting attacked. They're seeing the midfielder come up. And how many times do you hear that the best offense is a good defense? How about this? The best defense is a good offense. So that's really what
quote right there.
Exactly. And that's really what Coach Benecom has instilled into this team. And the second thing is the talent. Look at this roster. It's filled of defensive talent. I think to Piper Cofield, she's been great. Avery Sneed, the Providence College transfer now. What they do is they are phenomenal defensively, but they can also pressure, and they're comfortable in the offensive end. You mentioned Avery pushing up and scoring early in the season, and that's really what this team is capable of doing. And then last but not least, Jamie Gerstenberg, reigning Big Ten goalkeeper of the year. She's phenomenal in the back. She'll save you 1, 2, how about 3 goals a game? So that's really what's set this defense apart from other defenses in the country.
Is there anything they need to do differently to replicate that this year?
I think continuing to pressure, but also knowing that this scheme, it's going to take a lot of stamina. And what I saw last weekend against Ohio State was really that issue of falling out of stamina late in the second half. And early in the first half, it really looked like the team was playing sluggish. You need to be full 100% from the get-go.
So you guys have alluded to it, so we'll jump into it. We've talked about a lot of positives. Now it's time to talk about some negatives. An ugly 3-0 loss to Ohio State to open Big Ten play. What were your overall reactions to that match, and how do you think they bounce back to the rest of the conference play this season?
I think kind of like what I was talking about with Layla, this is a young team, and it's going to take them some time to adjust. And also, you're coming off a game against a Division III opponent. You win 9-0. You're feeling really good, and then you play a ranked Ohio State team that is just red hot to start the year. Now, also, you're not going to see too many players throughout the year like the Buckeyes' Kaylin Dudukovic. She was unbelievable, commanded the whole game offensively. But what really struck me from Indiana was the lack of poise offensively. They weren't able to control possession, lost the ball. That high press kind of got them fatigued, and then the counter came from the Buckeyes. So they'll settle in throughout the Big Ten season. Nothing to worry about too much yet because the season is still very young. But that Buckeye team is a really strong team.
Quinn or Will, anything to add?
How about this? I'll stay in that similar vein with Layla Serta, and the main takeaway I had is that, look, Layla Serta is still a true freshman. She's got a lot of learning to go, and what stood out to me is in that second half, there was an instance where she came off the field for a substitution, and Coach Benecom brought her over, and he had a lot to say. She's going to make mistakes. She hasn't played Big Ten soccer before. This is her first time, so you can't expect her to be what Paige Weber was last year as a fifth-year player. Layla Serta is going to take some time to grow into that. Now, I'm not saying she's not capable, but I'm saying it's going to take time, and I think that's really what we saw against Ohio State, first game in big play, and I expect her to grow, get better, and maybe be more comfortable, and that ultimately is going to have an impact on this offense.
Well,
I would say the growing pains, that is kind of the main issue that is causing this team to lose games right now. Obviously, that Ohio State game, it was ugly. There was not really much bright spots from that game. There was in the second half, they came back. They had some chances, played a lot better defense in that second half. Van Bennekom was very proud of that second half, but still, it just wasn't their greatest game. And like they said, I mean, it's young. This team's going to learn, right? But the other thing is they're going to learn fast. They played OSU. Now they have UCLA, who's a former national champion. You got USC, recent former national champion. And these teams have all-conference players coming in from the Pac-12 and from really all over the country. I mean, USC's bringing in players from FSU, the most recent national champion, and a bunch of other talented transfers. So while this team's young, I have faith they're going to learn fast because Van Bennekom, he's learning fast himself. I mean, like you said, Quinn, it's his 6th year, and he's just now getting into tournament play and whatnot, and his team learned quick. I mean, they've looked better. Each game last year, they looked better. It seemed like every night, really. And now it's kind of the same thing with this team. Obviously, there was a lot of tune-up games, so they looked great against the lesser opponents. And now they've got their first taste of conference play in a tough opponent. They didn't look great. I'd expect them to look much better Thursday night and even on Sunday night.
Last question before we go to break. Last year was an incredibly successful year for this women's soccer team. First time they went to the Big Ten tournament since 2019. First time they went to the NCAA tournament since 2013. But both of those games were losses. This year, how do they turn those losses into wins and potentially make a run in both postseason tournaments?
I think just getting more aggressive on the offensive side. They got shut out in a one game against St. Louis, and it wasn't their greatest outing. But Van Bennekom is learning, right? Like I said, he didn't exactly know how to really play in a tournament because he hasn't played it more than once in 2019. So Van Bennekom's learning, and his roster, which was so young last year, obviously they lost Paige Weber, a couple other players here and there, but the core is still there. So the team is now familiar with postseason play a little bit. They got their taste of it. So now they know what to expect in teams in the tournament, how much faster, how much more aggressive, and just how much tougher the game is when it gets into postseason play because everybody wants it that much more. Indiana came out and kind of just looked like it was a regular season game, which granted, they didn't know any better, right? So Van Bennekom's going to coach this team up, and they're going to learn to just be more aggressive in those postseason games.
Ian or Quinn?
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. For me, it's all about experience when it comes to the playoffs, and last year was that first taste. These veteran players were able to see what's happening, what they need to do better in the playoffs. You get these new freshmen in like Serta, Neighbors taking on a new role, El Britt coming in offensively taking on a new role. A lot of this team, while most of them playing are not freshmen, they're playing in more advanced roles than they did last year. So it's going to be up to the veteran players in the midfield and the defense to bring that knowledge and experience to their attack and put it all together. Now, last year was a success. They did lose in the postseason, but they learned what they need to do. And I think this year they're going to use that as a way of forming some confidence and use that confidence to power themselves to a potential postseason victory.
Quinn, take us home.
For me, it's just you got to expect to be there, right? Last year, it felt like kind of a surprise when Indiana ended up making the NCAA tournament. And I'll throw this in there. Last Thursday, after the loss to Ohio State, Coach Bennicom, after the press conference, I think we were all there, he goes, "Thanks for coming out, guys. I'm sorry for the performance." And that really hit me. It's like he knows you can't expect to come out here and lose 3-0 at home to a Big Ten team and expect that team to have success in the tournament. Bennicom knows where his team is capable of being. He knows where his team should be. Now, Indiana has to get there.
Yeah, and it's just going to be such a fun season to watch this team grow, and I do really think that they're going to be playing some meaningful soccer in the late stages of the season. Will, Ian, Quinn, thank you guys so much for coming on the show and talking about it. But we're not done yet, though. Coming up after the break, Sydney Masur joins the show to break down her journey in an Indiana uniform and what fans can expect from this year's women's soccer squad. We'll be right back.
The Toss-Up, Fridays on IUSTV.
Welcome back to the Toss-Up. I'm joined now by senior midfielder Sydney Masur. Sydney, thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So from the time that you joined the team to now, it feels like the program just continues to make strides. What has it been like watching that growth and development firsthand?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think like when we were getting recruited, all of us on the team, our staff really emphasized us going in and kind of making history and changing the program. And I think we've all seen that happen with what we did last year. But I think just wanting to keep making the right steps forward. We still have a lot to do and a lot of business we want to take care of this year. But it's been amazing. We've done a great job kind of building tradition and culture at Indiana Women's Soccer. And I owe that a lot to the staff and the players coming in. They did a really great job.
So you mentioned the steps forward. I got to ask, what are those next steps you can take forward to win a few postseason matches?
Yeah, I think this year we have a lot of different attacking threats and people who really have stepped up from last year. I think just carrying that forward, making sure we build on what we did last year while also staying consistent. I think that's one of the keys that we need to focus on throughout the entire season, even going towards the end, making sure we're consistent and that we don't become predictable in our play. I think it's hard to tell. We want to take it game by game, and we set ourselves up well, but we still have a lot to do. But yeah, I think we've added a lot of new players who have done a great job, and a lot of our older players have also done a great job. So
you had a great freshman season, 10 starts, Big Ten all-freshman team, and you really didn't look back after that. I'm curious, what did you learn in that first year, getting that experience that helped you springboard into the rest of your career?
Yeah, I think I kind of had not low expectations for myself, but I hold myself to a pretty high standard. But going into a very top team and being a freshman, it's not easy. I think after my freshman year, kind of just making sure I continued with having confidence. I think that was something I struggled with my freshman year, is making sure I knew that I was where I was supposed to be, and kind of like a whole imposter syndrome thing. So I think kind of just stepping forward and using what I did my freshman year and taking it as a plus and a positive, and using it for my confidence going to my sophomore year. I think also, just learning how to benefit your team and being a team player. It's easy when you're young to sort of focus on yourself and just think about where you are now. I think that's a big thing that transformed me from my freshman to sophomore year, was kind of focusing more on the team and not just myself.
The team has a very deep midfielder room in particular that's full of talent. I'm curious, when does that spirited competition turn into friendships with the rest of the women that you battle with every day in practice?
Yeah, we have a really, really deep team. That's like probably one of the things that makes us so good. Our team has a lot of players that can play in a lot of different places, and I think you can see that with like our starting lineup. The players off the bench, it always is changing. Midfield in particular definitely have a lot of really talented players, and I think the competition just makes us all better. We're still teammates and we're still all really close. It never goes past that, but the competition is something that definitely allows us to never get complacent, which is really important. I think that's also a change that I personally have seen over the past 4 years is just so much depth off the bench and having girls always fighting for a spot and making sure no one ever feels like, they can step on the field every single day and they know that they have that spot. It's not like that, and it's great because all of us still friends and we're super, super close team, but when we're at practice, it definitely gets super competitive.
As a midfielder, what do you think is more important, endurance or leadership?
That's a good question. They're both pretty important. I think probably endurance because you can't lead if you're really tired and gasping for air. Can't really say anything. They're both important though. I think, you want to be able to run around, but also if you don't have the endurance piece, making sure you're a leader on and off the field is also important.
So I know your dad played at Rutgers, went on to play professionally, and now has been the head coach of the men's soccer team at St. John's for a long time and has had some really solid success. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from him and that he's taught you on and off the pitch?
Yeah, he's done a great job at not being too coach-y to me and not going too crazy into the soccer aspect, making sure he's still my dad. But I think the main things that he always talked to me about was just being resilient and making sure you keep going regardless of the situation. There's a lot of highs and lows, and he's so experienced and has seen that obviously throughout his own career. So it's nice to have a little bit of perspective on that end. I think another thing he really emphasizes is making sure as a team we stay together and that it might not be going a certain way, but making sure people are positive and that everyone's enjoying it, because it's easy to get caught up in your own situation. So I think making sure as a team we all stay together, I think he emphasizes that. And then probably on a game-to-game level, more specifically, he's so big about being aggressive and gritty. So he sends me these texts before every game that don't really make sense. It's just a bunch of buzzwords, but it's always win your headers, win your tackles, go forward, be aggressive, all caps. I'm got it. I'll do all that. But no, he's been great and done a great job.
So as we look ahead, we'll fast forward to the season's finished. You've just played your last game. You're getting ready to take off that IU uniform for the last time. What does success and fulfillment look like to you in that situation?
Yeah, I think as a whole team, we talked about wanting to, do better and end up in a better spot than we did last year. We were super successful last year, but coming back off of a successful season, we want to make sure, when we get to postseason, we win a game, and that's kind of our main goal, making sure we make it to the tournament, which, we have a long way to go. So I'm not going to speak too soon, and we have a lot of tough games coming up, but I think that is our main goal right now. And then on a personal level, I think just making sure I continue making memories with my teammates. I think that's kind of what's most important, regardless of the way the games go, just embracing every second, because goes by super fast, which is crazy.
Yeah,
but
it really does.
Just being grateful for every moment that I'm, on the field and can play with the girls on my team.
Sydney Masur, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
That'll do it for the show this week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to continue the discussion and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports. And give our Toss-Up socials a follow on those same platforms as well. You can catch Indiana women's soccer in action on Sunday when the Hoosiers take on USC at home. First kick is at noon on Big Ten Plus. With that, there's one thing left to do, so toss it up. We'll bury it in the back of the net. And as always, we'll see you next week. God bless.